Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said, empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
World.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the wildest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they had transpired today? I'm Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm Sana Fasan, and this week is another hot off the press. Okay, a lot has happened recently. We got a ton to go over. Miss Natalie Portman is pregnant again at 44 years old. This will be her third child and the first with music producer, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Tengai Distable. Well, Sarah, do you know how to pronounce that name?
I don't know the first name. I think the last one would be, I think he's French, right? So wouldn't it be like Distable?
Ooh.
I don't know.
I like that.
I think, I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Well, you know what? A handsome man, and he's a music producer, and we're apologetic for not getting that name right. We will learn, but congratulations to them. That's great. In other pregnancy news, very big pregnancy news, Aubrey Plaza is also expecting her first child with Girls alum Christopher Abbott, who I love. Now, here's the thing. The internet really proved that human nature is inherently bad because tons of jerks were giving her side eye because she is a widow. Her husband and filmmaker Jeff Baena, if you don't remember, tragically died by suicide in 2024. Well, Aubrey has spoken about how difficult the loss was. Grief and moving on are not mutually exclusive. A feminist might ask, why is everyone so shocked by her gestating womb right now? Was she supposed to join a convent? And I can't get over this because I'm still seeing so much backlash, Sarah. It's insane. It's all piled on her. I don't understand this that when a woman's husband passes, she's supposed to stay in mourning for the rest of her life. She clearly struggled with it. I know that there's rumors that perhaps she cheated. I don't really understand what that's based on. But even if she did, she's still a human being and she's allowed to move on, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of his death, they were separated. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't cause her grief. And I don't know why they separated. But even if she was unfaithful, there was this toxic internet discourse at the time that he killed himself because she cheated, if she even did. And here's the thing. Yes, I'm sure it is very painful when your partner cheats on you. It is not the reason why someone dies by suicide. There are many complicated and overlapping factors that cause someone to do that. And so that whole discourse really upset me when people were trying to scapegoat her. And then now everyone feels like she should, I don't know, just self-flagellate for the rest of her life and never, ever experience love with another human being, whether it's a new partner or a new baby. It's awful. It's so retrograde. And also, even if she did cheat on him, I mean, marriage is complicated. It's not perfect. And I don't want to speak ill of the dead. And it's such a tragedy what happened to Jeff Baena. But, you know, marriage is complicated and there are lots of factors. We don't know if she cheated. If she did, we also don't know what else was happening in the marriage. So I wish her well. I wish this woman well. That is all I have to say.
Same. I completely agree with you. Yeah, I support her. And I think she and Chris Abbott are a gorgeous couple. That child is going to have a lot of beautiful dark hair. I can't wait for them. Okay. Other little bit of celebrity news. Kim Kardashian and Lewis Hamilton are also still rumored to be dating. I mean, I think at this point we could just say it's official. They haven't said anything. They haven't officially confirmed. But listen, the photos are out there. They've been together at every event for the last, I don't even know, maybe about a month or so. It's hard to pin a timeline on it, but they look hot together. I love it. I love it. Okay, moving on. Our big topic for this week is, as promised, a deeper dig into Lena Dunham and what's been going on in her life lately. Last week, we, of course, shared an episode from the archives from 2024, which is a while ago now. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it is. So if you listen to that, if you listened to it before as a regular Reheat listener, we love you. But you probably noticed we're missing out on a few fresher details. So we're going to get into that today because, of course, she recently dropped her memoir, literally 2 weeks ago by the time you're listening to this. It's called Famesick. It delves into a lot of topics, from her relationship to fame during the early days of Girls to her professional breakup with former writing partner Jenni Conner, which me and Sarah have been obsessed with ever since it happened, and her breakup with rock star Jack Antonoff, which is also so spicy. The memoir goes into detail about her many surgeries and struggles with addiction. She's had a pretty complicated and difficult experience with her health for many years. She wrote a really beautiful essay, I remember quite some time ago now, about her experience with endometriosis. That was really pivotal for me as someone with PCOS and potentially endo. And I remember that being really important to me. So it's a lot of interesting discussion points. Famesick is also dedicated to stars like Marilyn Monroe and Jean Harlow, who did not survive the experience of being famous, which I thought was so interesting. She's got like quite a few people listed there. And I noticed she went very intentionally diverse. She pointed out a couple of Asian stars, which I really appreciated. One woman who was in Bollywood for a bit, Jai Khan, who I hadn't even thought about in ages. And it's a lot of people who've also taken their lives because the fame got to them. So I was really moved by that. Now, Sarah, we both read this book. We put it off until discussing it now. Although I will say I'm not quite yet done, but it's delicious. I want to know, what is your one sentence review?
My one sentence review. Lena Dunham has been through some shit. Like,
seriously, man. Ooh. That's the review. Yes. Yes. And you know what? If I add a second sentence to it, if I may, I'm going to say, and she's bet for it in a way. I don't mean to say that it's good what she's been through. Absolutely not. It's not good to have struggled so much. However, she's come out on the other end really beautifully. She's so self-actualized now, so self-aware. She's so sophisticated with the way she speaks, her intellect. She can say everything she wants to. I was saying to a friend earlier this week, it's like her brain is finally reaching her mouth. She used to put her foot in it a lot, right? And now, if you've even seen a bit of her incredible press tour, she's so eloquent, and I feel like she's confident, which she hasn't felt ever before, to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a fascinating book. So we're going to go deep. Okay. So what do you want to start with? What was the spiciest news in your opinion? Spiciest item?
Okay, so for me, there's so many things. But I have to say, she touches on the men in her life. And of course, there's a bit on Jack Antonoff and also, as we mentioned, but also Adam Driver, her Girls co-star, which, I'd been waiting for something on this. I never thought it would come because it wasn't something she'd ever touched on before. But to put it simply, especially if you haven't read it yet, although really these aren't spoilers, it's her life, but she describes him as being a bit gruff and violent on the set. And with her specifically, it sounded like he was incredibly domineering and frankly abusive. And then there's also her relationship with Jack, which has a surprising reveal. So do you want to get into it?
Okay, so the Adam Driver stuff, yes. What's so heartbreaking is she basically says, like, I was 24. I thought this was how male geniuses were expected to behave. And I think the power dynamic that she doesn't even really explore, because I feel like Lena Dunham blames herself for so many things, even in this book. I agree with you. She's more confident now, but she still takes on a lot of blame that I don't think she needs to, and makes a lot of excuses and provides a lot of context. But I mean, there is kind of a power imbalance where they got her Jenni Conner to be her like TV babysitter. And this guy in sex scenes is improvising. I know this was the time before intimacy coordinators, but really, if you're doing a BDSM sex scene, should you be improvising things that weren't written? I mean, should you ever improvise when you're not the writer? I mean, unless it's that kind of set, you probably shouldn't. And because he was freshly out of Juilliard, and I think people who went to Juilliard always have that mystique. Everyone's like, they went to Juilliard, they're a genius, right? She didn't really feel comfortable confronting him. Where was Jenni Conner in all of this? Why wasn't Jenni Conner saying, hey, that's not how we wrote it. Why are you improvising a sex scene? Like, the whole crew seemed to be delighted with him. Everyone seemed to think, okay, this man's a genius and therefore he can do what he wants, which is interesting because no one has ever said that about Lena. And I would also argue that regardless of how much what you feel about Lena, she is also a genius in her own way. And no one ever said she gets to do what she wants.
This is what I kind of struggle with so much, because speaking of the male genius thing, because some people think that of Jack Antonoff too. I disagree. I do think Lena's a creative genius, however you feel about her. But thank you for that, because I think Adam Driver is such a fascinating example of, first of all, an actor she discovered, which people forget. And now his career has taken off so much. I think he even forgets he came from Girls. And he has this kind of pretty disgusting past. And I have to assume he didn't just stop that on the set of Girls. I have to assume he's done that on other sets as well. And people have protected him, and she doesn't get that. And he's so vaunted. He's so beloved. He's put on such a massive pedestal. It's only growing every day. Nobody talks about this other nasty shit. Like she was saying in the book that he would spit, he would throw furniture, he would throw a chair one time. Didn't she say he punched a hole in a wall because he hated his haircut or something like that? And I was just like, what in God's name? This man sounds like... I think you're right, because I think she's probably being quite generous. When she shared little moments like that, I was like, oh, he was probably much worse than you're even saying that. And nobody ever exposed him. Whereas she's gotten so much shit over the years and has to fight for herself, really. I mean, she had to take this long break that I think was partly, I know, due to her health, but I also think it helped with her exposure levels. Like she needed to go away for a while. He's never going to have that problem.
No, he isn't going to have that problem. Also, compared to a lot of celebrities, I don't think she was overexposed. She wasn't trying to sell us clothes, right? She wasn't doing any of that. But it just shows you how little tolerance we have for female geniuses and women who are doing innovative things. And listen, I know that Lena Dunham's material isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I do think we have to appreciate how innovative Girls was. And I actually don't think we give that show enough credit, because having watched I Love LA, which is a delight, it is not as good. And everyone said, oh, it's the new Girls. And I think saying it's the new Girls shows that everyone's sexist, because anytime it's women in their 20s on TV, now we're just going to say it's Girls, just like anytime it's women in their 30s, it's Sex and the City. So it shows their sexism. And I Love LA is a good show, but it's still not anywhere near as good as Girls, which I think shows you how brilliant that series was.
I do think it's interesting, and we may have said this on a previous episode, but Gen Z has discovered Girls, and we have a lot of millennial friends who are rediscovering it and finally giving her the credit that I think she was owed back then. And this is why I always say, please don't fall into a hive mind. Like, if you like what you're watching, own that. Don't just follow what everybody else is saying. I loved Girls from the very beginning. I'm not saying that I'm always like able to evade the hive mind, but in that instance, yeah. And listen, hard to defend her through those years all the time. I do think it's interesting she's getting this rewrite now. It's almost like she was meant for another generation, or she was ahead of her time in some ways. I'm not trying to give her too much credit, but I really do think it's true. Like, I think she's an unbelievable writer, and perhaps, yes, a voice of our generation. I really think so.
Definitely one of them. And we don't have to have a singular voice, but she's definitely one of them. And listen, she was always honest about her experiences, which was that she wrote from this upper middle class perspective of, I mean, they didn't have the term Nepo baby at the time. She says they called us all daughters of.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because they didn't have Nepo baby. And she's very honest about that. I do think it's weird that she was skewered in the press for being kind of a daughter of, when her parents, unless you're really into innovative abstract art, are not famous. They're great. They're talented. They're brilliant. She was the child of geniuses. She was not the child of stars.
Yeah, her parents were in the art world, in the abstract art world, in like specifically to New York. And I understand how sometimes there can be connections there, but I really don't think that existed in a way where it would get her a gig at HBO. Different so for Sasha Mamet and Allison Williams, I'm certain, but I don't think you can say the same for Lena. And here's the thing. I mean, let's be real here. I think so much of the hate for her was entirely based on the fact that she wasn't a skinny lady. And, you know, it pisses me off because she wasn't even fat at the time, you know, and she got completely destroyed for being not conventionally attractive and definitely a little bit strange. Like she wasn't following the norm. She didn't have the same views as everybody else. She definitely, again, put her mouth in it. I think one of the toughest things for me that I wish had not happened, and if we had hindsight in our hot off the press episodes, I would say this. She defended a friend of hers who was met with assault allegations. That was terrible. And she certainly made some odd comments on diversity, but I also feel like she was growing up, like she was in her 20s. And part of the reason that I am able to move on from that is because I've seen so much other substance from her. And right now, what I'm seeing with Famesick is so much growth. Like, I really do think she's thought that through and she's so much more self-aware now.
Yeah, she's definitely self-aware. I mean, here's the thing. What 24-year-old is self-aware, right? So we gave this person a massive platform before their brain was done developing. And in some ways, she was ready for that because she had a voice, she had a vision, but she also wasn't ready for the fame part. And that's why I enjoy the title, Famesick, where it's the fame that was the issue. Yes, the schedule was grueling. That was part of it. But the schedule was so grueling, not because of the show, but because of the other stuff, right? The going to the Met Gala, the promoting of the show, all of those things that made it so she never got any respite. And so I think it's a very good argument inside of a memoir that fame is dysfunctional, right? As you said, she dedicates it to all the people who didn't survive fame. Fame is in some ways a disease. And throughout the book, she talks about all the ways her body is rebelling against her. And some of those health problems are health problems she likely would have had regardless. I mean, she was always going to have endometriosis. But some of those things you've got to figure are exacerbated. I mean, the number of surgeries this woman has to go through, the number of surgeries, you have to think the fame exacerbated this situation. And just, okay, let's talk for a little bit about the weird, toxic relationship with Jenni Conner. So when they met, Lena was 23. Jenni was 38. Jenni specialized in writing for kind of youth-centric shows. She had written on Judd Apatow's Undeclared, and she was kind of aging out of that demographic. I mean, some people never age out of that demographic. I mean, I think Stephanie Savage was in her 40s when she was doing Gossip Girl. But I mean, I feel like on some level, Jenni Conner just felt like Lena, and this is, I don't know Jenni, but this is the impression I get. And Lena doesn't even say this, but it feels like she almost saw Lena as a meal ticket because some of the things that Jenni Conner does are ridiculous. Like, remember when they're getting ready to create Girls and she tells Lena that she has to gain weight because it's not funny if you don't. As though
that's so stupid and dated.
Yeah. Well, just interfering with somebody's body. And Lena Dunham reflects on that because she has now been a director on Industry and the cast was a similar age. And she's like, I would never go up to them and tell somebody, like, basically, I'm going to exacerbate your eating disorder and give you this comment about your body. Right. So she doesn't explicitly say that Jenni was exploiting her, but I really feel like Jenni was. What do you think?
I think for sure. Like, there's a point where she mentions how she was afraid of Jenni, which is so wild because at the time, and again, you and I talked about this, but I mean, I'm always fascinated by showrunner and writer relationships. And so I was fascinated by theirs. It seemed like it was this beautiful friendship. That's how I felt like they presented it, right? And very clearly, maybe that was what HBO wanted. They wanted to present it that way so you would trust the team behind Girls. And it seemed like they were going to do other shows together. I think they were co-producing on Camping, right? And a show that Lena did after. But then she talks about in the book how Jenni would give her one look and it would just make her filled with fear because she felt like she fucked up in some way. So I think you're so right to what you said earlier, which is that Jenni was like her hired babysitter and also maybe like disciplinarian and all these other things. And there was a path she was supposed to follow designed by Jenni, but it's like, I don't know that was necessary. It sounded like they clashed more than anything else. And maybe Lena didn't feel comfortable to speak up.
Yeah. I mean, there is a weird power imbalance inherent in the fact that Jenni had created shows before and knew Jed better because Jed had such a position of power in the girls' universe. That made me uncomfortable, that relationship. And I mean, when they broke up, had their breakup, and he kind of just wants nothing to do with Lena anymore, and Lena hopes they'll be friends. That was also weird. Here's the thing. It seems like Jenni intentionally cultivated a closeness with Lena strategically, right? Like she would tell, if Lena went out without her, she would say you were secret hanging. She would get mad about that. But then when Lena winds up in the hospital, she basically is like, call your mom. I can't be your emotional support. And also just wants to rush her back to work. The whole crew just wants to rush her back, even though she's having serious health problems. So the whole thing was giving Matthew Perry to me. And he tragically did die. He died because I remember his whole addiction to painkillers started when he was on the set of Fools Rush In. He had an accident. They needed him to keep filming. They gave him painkillers, right? So he could film a scene. And it's a similar thing that happened to Lena. She needed to remain high functioning. This brings me to the relationship with Jack Antonoff, who, okay, they were both young and she gives him a lot of grace.
She's too much.
He's not a good boyfriend. I was
disappointed by that. No, I felt like she's way too nice to him in the book.
Okay, so what about his behavior offended you most? I'm curious.
Oh, okay. What a question. You know what it is for me? And this is kind of zooming out a little bit, I suppose, because this is also the baggage that I went into this book with Jack, which I've never really understood his appeal, generally speaking. Like, I know he's a super producer. And for the longest time, there was this rumor that when he stepped out on Lena, he was doing it with Lorde, who is this younger star, and maybe she was cooler and more interesting and whatever. And I just felt like he probably loved those rumors. And I've always gotten the sense that he loves kind of dumping on Lena and getting to live in this opposite mode where the moment that he hit this level of fame, which by the way was partly due to Lena, I think, like they were hitting red carpets together. They were together a lot of the time in front of the camera. And then he decided, like so many men we hear of, that, okay, well, I'm going to date younger. I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to have this other bigger career. And I think that's the thing where that generally pisses me off about him and going into this book that I had with me. And that I feel like she also doesn't call out enough. But I want to hear what you think.
You know, it reminded me kind of Ryan Reynolds and Alanis Morissette.
Ooh.
You know, and it's interesting because Ryan Reynolds and Jack Antonoff were both involved with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which is kind of funny. But it was giving Ryan Reynolds to me where it's, you know, this person's good for my career. This person is funny and she's a genius and she's creative. And, you know, this is a thought leader, a true Hollywood thought leader, like somebody who is just innovating all the time and so productive. And then I'm going to eventually leave this relationship that I said would last forever and find a series of younger women. So even Scarlett Johansson wasn't young enough for him. He eventually went younger.
He's with Margaret Qualley now, guys, if you don't already know who, significantly younger.
Yeah. So Jack Antonoff specifically, is with Margaret Qualley. They're married. And I mean, listen, I think she's very talented. She's also very beautiful. It is also weird that Lena introduced them while they were still together.
It's so weird, man. It's so weird.
It's very weird. And it makes you think that maybe he was a serial philanderer. I mean, it could be a coincidence. It could be that they just saw each other again at an industry event later. But it makes me wonder if he was already shopping for new girlfriends while they were still together. That combined
feel like that.
Yeah, that combined with the Lorde rumors. And okay, the Lorde rumors, even if it is just a really close friendship, why is a man that old friends with a teenager?
This is the thing that I can't stand. And I feel like a lot of these famous people make it sound like it's fine and normal because they're working together, but it's like it's still not okay and it's really weird.
You can also like friend Lee, but the things he was doing, like she was crying in his lap.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are boundaries, right? So you can be friendly. You can have a friendly lunch with this person. You can invite them to your birthday party. If there's, a large group, it's not just you one-on-one. And that's kind of mentorship, and that's fine. But what they were doing was entirely too intimate. I mean, this Lorde was always in the house. She was cuddling with him, essentially, is how it's described, right?
I don't get it. And you know what I wonder sometimes, and I wonder what you think, but I think Lena felt like she had to be more open in this way in having him be for the people, shall we say. Because we also know he had a pretty close relationship with Taylor Swift, who was friends with Lena at one time. I don't know what happened
still are.
there. Are they? Okay. Because I thought, well, I mean, I don't know. I find the way Taylor collects her friendships and then drops them very odd, but it's good to hear, I guess, that they're still friends if they are. But I always thought it was kind of strange, like how she'd have to be juggling all of that, and also maybe seemed like very forgiving. She mentions that she knew, like, she was following the online discourse about the Lorde accusations, and it started to actually make her wonder, like, what if it is true? And I just think she almost seems too naive. And again, like, we don't have any evidence or proof that Jack was stepping out, but I'm a little jaded, and I believe that he probably was. And I feel like she was really good at turning a blind eye. Let's put it that way.
Also, even if he wasn't physically cheating, emotional affairs are a thing. And what she describes with Lorde, just that she saw, and she wasn't there the whole time, is an emotional affair, at least in my opinion. I mean, she doesn't name Lorde, which is classy, because while Lorde is an adult now, she was a kid at the time. And so I like that Lena is very respectful of that and gives Lorde a lot of grace. But here's the thing. Lena just is the sin eater for all of this. She's constantly scapegoating herself for everything, right? I mean, the relationship with Jenni is a little bit more nuanced. I think she has enough perspective to know that probably Jenni was the inappropriate one there. And she doesn't explicitly say that, but I feel like that's the kind of the tone I get, that she understands that what Jenni did was wrong, because she does say, this is not how I treat the young people I work with today, right? She does say that so she gives herself that amount of leeway to criticize Jenni. But Christ, this woman needs to just be able to say, this person wronged me. I want that for Lena. I want her to be able to say, this person is a jerk.
Well, let me ask you, do you feel like going into writing this memoir, knowing so clearly, I think, like, she's certainly read a lot of the press over the years, how people feel about her and returning, so to speak, do you feel like she felt maybe she had to go a little soft and not go too hard, not turn herself into a brand new villain in another way?
That's a really good point. And I think for her mental health, she couldn't create that kind of reaction. So maybe she did have to be soft. And I have listened to a lot of interviews with her where she says, like, you know, when I'm talking to my friends, I can be catty. And I'm glad that she has that she gives herself the permission to do that, to complain about people when she's with her friends. But I would say, as an art piece, the memoir is also beautiful. I think it's beautifully written. I think it's funny. I think it's also heartbreaking at other points. I really liked how she dissected her pattern of being kind of boy crazy. You know, when she talks about the relationship with Nick, the person she got engaged to a month after breaking up with Jack Antonoff. That is a very interesting story. And if she were a male genius writer, I think people would be like, you are the new Leonard Cohen. You are so cool. You are just a visionary. I love the way you describe life. But because she's a woman, I feel like she'll never get that kind of credit for just making art out of her life with that kind of poignance. Anyway, I think it's a great book. I think everyone should read it. What's interesting about her is, I mean, I was reflecting on what you said about her being, is she the voice of our generation? And I don't think there is a singular voice. And Girls is so specific that it can't be her. But when she describes how she came up, it really is funny, because she was in the center of the zeitgeist as it was forming, right? I mean, she worked in a building and shared an office space with the Safdie brothers and Greta Gerwig, right? I mean, she knew these people before they were big, right? When Greta Gerwig went to film Greenberg, she has an anecdote about asking Greta Gerwig, what's LA like? And Greta just says, everybody hikes there, right? I mean, and then when she's making Tiny Furniture, she cast that guy because he was on Gossip Girl. And she was like, that was like being in an Orson Welles movie to us. It's amazing how she actually was in the middle of the zeitgeist at the time. And I think, like, her biggest privilege, to be honest, was having parents who lived in New York so she could live with them while she met all of these up and coming creatives. So any upper middle class kid would have had this. I honestly think, like, had her parents been successful New York lawyers, she probably would have had the same path and been equally successful and gotten an HBO show. It was the fact that she lived in New York and could get in a room with these people. I think that was her true advantage. What about you?
I completely agree. Because you mentioned the Safdies, Greta, these are all people in that New York enclave. And I will say, I mean, listen, she grew up and lived in a bubble. That's part of what the thesis around Girls was, right? Like living in your own bubble and having a really hard time even realizing there's other people and places outside of it and communities and thoughts. And I feel like what we're seeing now is Hannah Horvath like growing up. And I didn't like Hannah Horvath. I don't think you're supposed to, right? I don't think Lena is Hannah. I know a lot of people like to say that. I think that's kind of insulting to Lena. Again, I'm a Lena apologist forever, guys. I know. But I do think in a similar way, those characters followed that trajectory for a bit where they really struggled to get out of that New York mind. And I think now we're actually seeing that. As we know, she relocated to the UK quite some time ago. She's with, what's her man's name against her? Louis
Felber.
Yeah, her husband now, she's married. She's so happy. She depicted the relationship a little bit in her recent Netflix series Too Much, which I really liked. I know a lot of people didn't. That's okay. But I think what's interesting is that she seems mentally healthier, being in a different place, being outside of Hollywood, being outside of America, frankly, in New York, and also being with someone who clearly loves her for who she is. And it's very mutual. And here's what I really love about it. There's a beautiful creativity that is coming from that space. And so now that she's quote unquote back, I'm really intrigued. She's got a new movie coming out soon, a romance with Natalie Portman, who we mentioned earlier. She's got a lot of things in the works. And I'm just happy to see her having it together and thinking before she speaks and gifting us with a book, because at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about her, she's such a gorgeous writer. There's so many bits in this book, and I'm going through it really carefully because I just love rereading some of the bits as I go. She's such a good writer, man, and I love that.
I know, you can never take that away from her. She is such a good writer. One of the things I really loved about the ending, she has this line where I'm going to paraphrase. She says, "I'm not invited to the Met Gala anymore, but I am invited to people's weddings." So basically she has restored her balance. Like, she's reclaimed her friendships that she had to neglect because Girls was so crazy. And also because I feel like her friends, she doesn't say this, but I think they confused her public persona or the way she was portrayed in the media with who she was, and were assuming that she was a jerk. She does describe some situations where her friends were just not giving her any grace and were kind of bullying her, although she actually is very sweet about that. Like, she mentions it, but she doesn't condemn them. So this is a very forgiving person. But my favorite thing she says is she talks about how she got married, but it didn't heal me. So she's not trying to pretend that that was the answer to everything. Like, yes, if you find someone you love and you want to marry them, that's great. It's not going to be the answer to all your problems. You still will have problems, but you get to face them, hopefully, with a supportive partner, which she does now. And that's a privilege. But I like that she doesn't spend too much time on the marriage, because she rejects the kind of romantic comedy narrative, which I think proves what she's trying to do in the second half of the book succeeded, which is working through the boy craziness, right? Working through this idea that a man will fix you, because she doesn't even spend that much time on the marriage. Just like, I got married, as a footnote, basically.
Isn't it funny? It's almost like, because it is so healthy, there's nothing to say.
Nothing to say. What would you say about it?
Yeah. Oh, I love what you're saying. Yeah, because she is a work in progress. I mean, we all are, not to be corny, but it's the truth. And she's never going to be perfect. But I appreciate the progress that she's made. And yeah, you're right. I think in the end, it's quite a generous memoir, even in the way that you do get these really delicious celeb literary exposés where we find out the stuff about Adam Driver and Jenni Conner. She's still quite kind, even in the way that she reveals she's the one who stepped out on Jack. Like, that feels like she felt like she. I know.
They were on a break, as Ross said. We were on a break, right?
See, yeah, and I feel the same way as you, because I also listen. I'm also a Ross apologist, so you can all hate me forever, but they were on a break. And here's the thing. I do feel like she felt like she had to, what's that phrase? Like, kind of get on her own knees a little bit here. And I don't think she needed to do that. Like, it's fine. You've already done enough stupid shit in the past. You didn't need to offer up more. It's fine.
I don't know why she needed to offer that up, honestly. I also don't consider it cheating. They were on a break. What is a break if you can't actually do things like that? What were they breaking from? I don't understand. So I don't think she cheated, and I don't think Lena should think she cheated. Absolutely. She was also going through so much. And one of the things she was going through was her hysterectomy. And she speaks really beautifully and really candidly about fertility. And I think that this was such a gorgeous, sad, but also ultimately life-affirming account of that experience, because she does work through it and she does talk about the grief that it caused her, which is real, right? I mean, giving up on the dream of carrying biological children or having them at all. Eventually her ovaries, she has to get both of them removed. So I do think that is an important piece. And even if people aren't Lena fans, I think anybody who's going through infertility or just wants to understand it better could benefit from just how she writes about it. She writes about it in a way that is at times very visceral, but I feel like ultimately is fairly hopeful, because she does find new dreams. She does move on. I mean, the one thing that really broke my heart was when she was talking about how she had fantasized about, pushing her daughter in a stroller. And I mean, I've done that so many times, and it made me very aware of my privilege and very aware of what people I know who are going through infertility are facing. So it was a really good read from that perspective. And it just cemented for me, this woman is a great writer, right? If nothing else, read this as an art piece. Even if you don't care about her, it's an excellent memoir.
She's also, for a final point, like a hell of a Hollywood figure, right? Like, we don't really have characters like this now. She is that. Like, she reminds me, as I am reading, I keep thinking, like, she feels oddly like such a throwback in that way, where she reminds me a bit. I know some people are going to hate me for this, but she feels very Carrie Fisher at times. Like, she's so quirky, and there is an eccentricity there. She's such a good writer. She's such a good career. I actually do think she's a good actor too. I know she doesn't think she is. I think she is. But there is an element of that. And we don't have that really. And I don't think we do, at least like we used to, right? As like a few decades back. The movie star is dying out. We just don't have them like that anymore. And she finally feels a little more unreachable, which I think is what she always needed. She felt way too accessible before. And now I finally feel like there's a distance. And that's good and that's healthy. And I think that's what fame takes away from you, right? Like, it makes you way too accessible, especially now, thanks to social media. That's why we don't have movie stars like we used to, because you wouldn't know every damn detail about them. So I hope she stays on this track. I'm very happy for her. We love you, Lena Dunham, at The Reheat so much. And guys, if you haven't read the book, please read it. I'm going to hold it up. So this will be a good little TikTok shot. There you go. There you go. Grab it. It's delicious. But yeah, I think that's the end of this episode, Sarah. Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm with you. We love you, Lena. We support you. We support this journey that you're on. I'm excited to see your Natalie Portman movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just
there you go.
Peace and love from us.
Peace and love.
Peace and
there
love.
We go.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our gorgeous listeners. We will be back next week again with a brand new episode. You can listen to The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear more from me, you can find me at _Steph So where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Instagram at Sahikian Sarah. And if you liked this podcast, it really does help us if you rate, review, and subscribe, because then other listeners can find us too. If you would like us to keep growing, we really hope that you do. We would also love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat. So thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.